Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Coffee Talk! So today, we're going to talk about alien intervention. Don't. Have aliens ever intervened or interfered in the course of human endeavors? It could be. Will they intervene in the future? That is the big question that we're going to talk about today on Coffee Talk. But before I get started, I want to thank all of you who support this channel with your kind donations. This channel is funded exclusively by viewers like you. Without your support, this channel would cease to exist. So thank you so much. If you'd like to become a financial supporter, you can find links in the description below to Cash App, to PayPal, and to my post office box. Now, having said that, I need a little bit of extra help this month. I get just enough money from the channel to feed me and keep the lights on here. If anything comes up that's unusual or out of the ordinary, I don't have an emergency fund, I don't have a rich uncle, and I don't have a credit line to draw from. You guys are all of the above for me. And without you, I would be selling off my possessions to handle stuff like that when things go south or something unusual or unexpected comes up. And yesterday I had a blowout on my vehicle, and so I had to put the donut on and drive it on into the city. And as it turns out, that tire was shot, as well as the other back tire was also shot. Once we got in there and inspected it, we saw that it was about to blow as well. And so I had to take some money that I had set aside to pay my electric bill at the first of the month, and I had to use that money to pay for tires. So if somebody out there, if the Lord puts it on your heart to support the channel, if you're already a supporter and you can give a little more, or you've never been a supporter, this is a great time to jump in there and help me out, because I got about $250 that I need to come up with by the first of the month for electric bills and for the electric bill and for my insurance as well. So at any rate, the links are in the description below. Anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. God bless you all. So, have aliens ever intervened in human history? Well, because this is kind of a Christian-based channel, I like to start at the Bible. And one could argue that, yes, aliens involve themselves in human endeavors throughout the Bible. Of course, we know them as angels, right? Angels are not from around here. They're not earthly, they're not human, so therefore, by their own, by that definition, in fact, they are alien to this earth. So aliens in the forms of angels and demons appear throughout the Bible to intervene in human affairs. I guess the biggest one is in Genesis 6, at the very beginning of the Bible, where it says that the sons of God, which most people call angels or watchers, looked down upon the daughters of men and found them to be beautiful. And they took for themselves amongst the daughters of men, they took wives from them and married them and had offspring, and their offspring were men of renown or giants. We talk a lot about Genesis 6 on this channel. So this is aliens in the form of fallen angels or demons who break God's laws to get involved with humanity. So this happened back in the day during the time of Noah. And, it's interesting that when the disciples asked Jesus about, what the signs of the end of time would be, and he made a very interesting statement. He says, as it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be for the coming of the second coming, or the coming of the Son of Man shall be. Anyway, I botched that delivery, but nonetheless, he said it was going to be like the days of Noah. So what was it like in the days of Noah? Well, for that, we can look at the Bible and see that the whole world had become wicked and corrupt, and that God actually mourned the fact that he made us. That's how bad you got to be where, God wishes you were never born. And decides to destroy the world in a flood. Now, this flood story, it permeates all of human history. Every culture, major and minor, every indigenous people, everyone, they all have some variation of the flood story. And then we got another pseudo-apocryphal book called the Book of Enoch. Enoch if you're from Texas, or Enoch if you're a Yankee, I suppose. But anyhow, this book tells the story of what happened. That in, of course, in Genesis 6, you've got these people, aliens, angels, whatever, sons of God, coming down to earth and interbreeding with humans and creating these giant offspring. And they go into detail about the Nephilim, which are the offspring of the fallen angels, in detail in the book of Enoch. And it even goes to the point where Enoch is taken up to heaven and gets to see heaven. And quite honestly, the heaven he describes looks a lot like the Starship Enterprise. Don't, aliens and God, and it's all, I don't know, what do you think? When you look at that description of the in the book of Enoch about heaven, it looks a lot like it could be a giant starship. And so, yes, we have aliens, and then of course God decides to destroy the earth, but spares Noah and teaches Noah how to build a giant ark and collect all the animals. We know the Bible story of Noah, of Noah's Ark. And so here we have at least two sets, maybe three sets of aliens, depending on how you measure or interpret this scripture. Because you've got the God that wants to destroy the entire earth, right? And then you have the fallen angels who corrupted all the humans to begin with from Genesis 6 and married and crossbred with humans to create these giants. And but then you have, whether it's the original God or some third God now, some third entity that decides to spare the humans, and he builds an ark. You have the same story in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where an individual is saved by a son of God or a God creature who wants to spare humanity and have some of the good humans survive. And so you have the same Noah's flood story told in a much older scripture from the Sumerian epics. So yeah, we've got aliens intervening, whether it's God, angels, demons, throughout the Bible, and especially at the time of Noah. So if we are entering the end days, the last days, the end of time, a lot of people think we are. You know me, I'm on the fence about it. But could be, or just could be another messed up time in human history. Nonetheless, though, there's that reference to it being like the time of Noah. Now, if you watch the channel, you know that one thing that I keep pointing out, it's kind of this mile high view, is that human technology, if you look at archaeology and ancient history, about the time of this flood, this great flood, you have this massive explosion of human technology. And we kind of go from hunter-gatherers to making city-states and aqueducts and roads, right? And great religious monuments. And you see this huge push forward in human technological advancement at the time of the flood. And then nothing really changes, right? We've got the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, the rise and the fall of the British Empire, but essentially we're still horse and buggy, right? We're still using animals and water power and some wind power to power things like windmills and millstones, milling out the grain and creating flour and stuff like that, and cornmeal. And you see no mechanization, no engines, no flight, right? And there's lots of recordings in ancient history of a time when humans had the ability to fly and had technology and had vehicles. And of course, in the Indian text, they call them Vermana, but they were flying machines, flying carpets. And that you see this throughout that ancient time, the time around or before the Great Flood. And then really nothing for the past 6,000 years, very little advancement in the human condition until the 20th century, right? We studied the Industrial Revolution. That was level one of it. And then, we went into the automation time of the 30s and 40s and 50s, mechanization. And then the era of the circuit board and solid state circuitry and electronics going into the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then by the time we get to the 1990s, now we're talking about, the internet and instant communication around the globe in a blink of an eye, and new advancements in everything, in medicine, in surgical methods, and it just seems unnatural. This sudden advance. If you look at this as a graph, for 6,000 years you got nothing until the late 19th century, and then you get this into the 20th century and into the 21st century. It just shoots through the roof. Like, we have had a massive, like never before, sudden change. And one of the conspiracy theories on this massive change is that it's alien intervention. That once again, the sons of God have looked down upon the daughters of men, and their offspring are men of renown. And they're spreading this technology that in the Old Testament they might have referred to as witchcraft, right? They might have referred to this as forbidden knowledge, the knowledge of electronics and electricity and magnetism. And there seems to be so much more. Nuclear power, fission. Now we're talking about artificial intelligence, literally creating an entity, a thinking, learning entity out of what? Smoke and mirrors? Out of magic, right? This technology would have been perceived as magic in the old days, and if we get bombed back to the Stone Age, they'll look back at this and see it as magic. This time in human history, and so it's starting to look like there must have been some kind of intervention in the course of human endeavors to account for this massive explosion of technology. And of course, the UFO people will say, well, it's because we recovered UFOs that got downed by our pilots or crashed, and we were able to reverse engineer things like Kevlar and Mylar and the microcircuitry and anti-gravity and all kinds of technology that comes from these recovered crafts, including the learning enough from the recovered craft to be able to create more of them. And so there's this conspiracy theory that the U.S. and other countries have flying saucers, that we actually have anti-gravity machines that were reverse engineered. Bob Lazar talked about this. And he was a whistleblower that said that there's captured UFOs, and you can't tell the difference between those and the ones we've made as by copying the technology. And then there's even another element to this that people claim that Dwight D. Eisenhower in the 1950s got visited by multiple species of aliens that wanted to do business with Earth. They needed our water, they needed gold, and they needed human DNA for their own personal reasons, for whatever that is. That's a little scary. What are they doing with our DNA? And that Dwight D. Eisenhower made a deal with the devil. He made a deal with one race of these fallen angels, these demons, these aliens, and they gave us a lot of this technology that caused America to soar and become leaders of the world, and make our lifestyle something that has never been seen in recorded human history. Maybe in the lost history we had something like this in the past, but our civilization is so advanced compared to anything that's been around in recorded human history, according to the history books anyhow. And that this has been something that we've traded for by letting them ransack our water supplies and take water from deep inside the earth. That we traded gold, and that some would argue that there's no gold in Fort Knox because we gave it all to the aliens. Don't. Of course, I think, didn't Donald Trump come out and say there is gold in there? I don't know. Or they're going to audit it. There's something going on right now about Fort Knox. Big conspiracy there probably. But nonetheless, they also made a deal for our DNA. I got to say, when I was a little kid in the 1970s, kids ran wild everywhere. And nobody kidnapped us. There was no fear of anybody kidnapping us. In fact, it was kind of a joke. They used to say that, if somebody kidnapped us, that my parents would pay them to keep me. Like, here's $10,000. You just keep him. Don't bring him home. I mean, kids ran the streets in packs, and nobody was getting kidnapped, nobody was getting disappeared. And then in the late 70s, early 80s, it started happening. Child abduction started becoming commonplace and normal, till now everybody's so scared of them that kids can't go outside and play anymore. That's one of the big differences between Gen X and the younger generations, is we were raised like feral dogs running loose on the street, and our parents kicked us out in the morning and said, don't come back till the street lights come on, go outside and play. And now kids don't leave the house for fear of being snatched out of their own yard, which happens on a regular basis. So could it just be that humans, through demonic intervention, have become so evil that they started preying upon children? Or is this the fulfillment and the procurement of the DNA promised to the aliens by Dwight D. Eisenhower clear back in the late 1950s? Don't. Could be. You never know. It could happen. So, that brings us to another one of my favorite subjects, which is Admiral Byrd's diary. So why might aliens intervene? Let's say we've got one group of aliens that's made this deal, let's say demonic aliens has made this deal for technology with us, right? But what if there's a good group of aliens? God, right? God and his angels. And they're watching over us. At what point do we get so corrupted by this fallen angel technology and the deal that we made with the devils and this corruption of humanity as a species? How bad does it have to get before God, the good aliens, intervene? Are we looking at another destruction by flood? Well, the Bible tells us that the next destruction won't be by water, but by fire. Right, that's the promise. If there's a next time, if we get corrupted like we did back in the days of Noah, next time it'll be fire. And of course, in Christian teaching, they teach that there's going to be that destruction of earth, but there will also be like a Noah's Ark, but the Noah's Ark will come in the form of a rapture, where all the good people are taken away off the planet before the bad people and all the fallen angels and all the aliens that are all running around here disguised as humans gets blowed up in a fiery inferno, right? And that's kind of Christian doctrine in a nutshell. And but then we got Admiral Byrd's diary. So apparently the good aliens, which may or may not live at the center of the earth, or maybe the inner earth aliens are representatives of God and his good aliens, his good angels. But nonetheless, they seem to have a real problem with the idea of a nuclear war, the nuclear destruction of the planet. That's one way the planet could be destroyed in fire, not by the hand of God, but by the hand of corrupt and evil humans who are using this alien technology of nuclear power and nuclear war, nuclear weapons rather. And when they unleash them on the earth, it will make the earth uninhabitable. And maybe that's what triggers the rapture. Maybe, God comes in, pulls all the good folks who aren't corrupted by these demons, what few of us are out there, off the planet, right before evil humans with their alien overlords and their demonic influences blow up the whole world. And so Admiral Byrd was a World War II naval hero. And after the war, he became an adventurer. And there's a diary that was purportedly, maybe, possibly, we don't know, released by his son after his death, where he talks about in this diary, whether it's fiction or fact, that he found an opening to inner Earth around the North Pole, and that he went into the center of the Earth, was able to fly his airplane into the center of the Earth, and these advanced Nordic, tall, blonde, picturesque, highly intelligent, highly advanced humans, right, appear to be humans. Maybe these are the men of renown. Maybe these are the offspring of the Nephilim. Maybe these are good angels. We don't know. But we do know that they bring him in, and they basically give him a lecture. The leader of their group, who is called the Master, I think, he lays down the law and tells him to take this message back to humanity. And the message is, stop messing with nuclear weapons. Stop making them. Stop testing them. And don't you ever use one. If you ever use one again, and since World War II, one's not been used yet, right? If you ever use one again, we're going to come out from under here, bring our advanced technology against you, and take you all out, right? It's a threat that if we don't stop messing with nuclear weapons, they're going to come for us from the inner earth, right? Which they used to say hell is in the inner earth. It's a bit confusing whether these are good or evil. Nonetheless, there is a threat of intervention there. And so could it be that as we approach the inevitable day when nuclear weapons will be used human against human, that city destroying, radioactive, horrible, destructive weapons will be used openly? And maybe at the time this happens, right before this happens, or right after this happens, we could have a divine intervention. Just like in the days of Noah, right? When humanity gets so corrupted that we either are going to be destroyed by the good aliens, by the good angels, by God, or we're going to destroy ourselves in a fiery inferno of this technology run amok and out of control with our evil hearts and this evil demonic influence, and kill our own selves off and destroy the earth, right? And then the good gods, the good aliens, maybe they evacuate the ones worth saving. Maybe they look at your social media feed and decide whether you're a good person or not. You better hope not. you better hope not. Hope we're not getting judged by our social media, right? That could be bad news for some of us. But whether it's the Lamb's Book of Life, which is in the Book of Enoch, they keep a written record in that storyline, or it's like Defending Your Life, that movie of the afterlife, and it's a video record of every moment you've lived, or whether they're just going to dredge your social media and judge you from that. But nonetheless, a decision will be made as to whether you are redeemable or not. Christians believe that only those who align with Christ and accept Jesus as their personal Savior will be picked up in this rescue mission. And there's a possibility that that is at least true in some form, in some way. Because one thing I can say about Jesus, he preached love. Jesus' ministry isn't about, like he said himself, he didn't come to this earth to judge the earth, but he came to redeem those who were lost. So loving each other, loving your neighbor. If we loved each other like we're supposed to, if we love God like we're supposed to, if we love goodness and mercy and justice like we're supposed to, right? If we treated each other the way we should, and the way we all kind of know we should, then this world would be paradise, right? And so one could argue that if you accept Jesus, and that means you accept the law of love, you accept goodness and mercy, right? And you give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? And grace, right? And if we live that way, then there would be no need for an intervention. This earth would have a lot less suffering, if any at all. But, we obviously have a hard time living that way. So whatever the defining line is, whether you're being judged from your social media, from a video record, or you've just been spied on your whole life by angels and they've written your name down in on the naughty list or the nice list, there will be a division, right, where the goats, the people that don't love each other, the people that only care about themselves, the people that hurt other people for their own benefit, these selfish individuals that we call goats, right, from also words of Jesus, they will be condemned to suffer the fate of humanity. But the good ones, the sheep, will be accepted onto the good aliens world, into the good aliens graces, right, into God's graces, and we will be spared this apocalypse. Tell me what you think, right? Did aliens / angels and demons intervene in the past? According to the Bible, they did. What about the future? There is a story told in the Bible where a giant angel, bigger than one can imagine, will put 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea, raise his sword to the heavens, and in a single moment, time will be no more. He'll grab the heavens and stop this spinning earth in a moment, in a flash. Do you think we're this big in a vast, amazing universe filled and teeming with life of all sorts, types, and shapes? Is God the ultimate creator, not just creating us, but creating this amazing universe? Are there more than just us humans? I think it's kind of arrogant to think we're the only ones. Well, I'm about out of coffee, and I'm about out of time. So what do you think? Tell me in the comments section below. Share your thoughts on this. What do you think of the book of Enoch? What do you think of, or Enoch? What do you think of Admiral Byrd? What do you think of Genesis 6, right? Is all of this made up? You know, if so, you're kind of probably like an atheist. But I think atheists might think it's all made up. If you're a believer, you're going to believe in some of this from some angle, one way or the other. But tell me what you think. Don't forget to support the channel and leave me a comment in the comment section and comment section. And we'll see you next time on Coffee Talk.